Okay, this is all about the God Particle Bible and a new version that's due out any day now by the time you see this. I will have published the new version, which is the God Particle Bible, The Force Awakens. Now, the reason I used The Force Awakens is because, as many of you probably have already guessed, it's the title of the next Star Wars movie that's due out in the latter part of 2015. And it's occurred to me a long time ago, along with a few other people, of course, that the God particle field is actually the force that they talk about in the Star Wars movies. However, George Lucas got it slightly wrong. He says, and you can wind the video back, it's the first one that they put out, where Obi-Wan Kenobi is explaining to Luke Skywalker about the Force, and he says, the Force is created by all living things. And that, of course, is ridiculous on its face. We are living things, and we don't claim to create the Force. It's obviously created by someone much grander and bigger and more powerful than any living thing that we can name, including the human person, or mankind, or the human consciousness. The Force is created by God. Let's just get that right out there right now. Now, God, however, is a different concept than what you may be thinking about from your traditional Bible studies and scripture reading and that kind of thing. God is much bigger than anything that we can put down in any books, including my own. And I explain that in the God Particle Bible. However, God is understandable now that we've discovered how he works in what's called the God particle field. The God particle, it's been discovered now, it's been proven by if you Google the Large Hadron Collider, the first thing that they were after was trying to discover the God particle, and they did after a couple of years, and spending billions and billions of dollars. They did discover that there is such a thing as the God particle. Now, what is the God particle? It's the particle that gives everything else in the universe its mass. So it's the creator of everything that matters. All the matter in the universe has mass. And it can't get any mass without going through the God particle field. The God particle field is like a soup of energy that everything moves through on the subatomic level, of course. We don't recognize the soup as we move through it, but all of the particles that make up our body does. Even the particles that make up our brain, and even the particles that go to make up every single thought that we have, it's all going through the God particle field, because that field is everywhere. And that's what gives things mass, the smallest subatomic particles, all of them. And if you studied the psychology at all, you know that even our thought processes are made by electrons firing through our neuronal system. Our brain nerve cells actually use electricity to transmit our thought energy along billions and billions of little synaptic pathways in our brain. And of course, you can't do that without electrons. Electrons don't exist without the God particle field that they move through to gain mass. Mass, again, is everything that matters. So everything that matters, including all of your thoughts and dreams, your physical body, the car that you drive in, the house that you live in, the clothes that you're wearing, are all held together in this massive universal field that you can think of like a glue that holds everything together. Because without the electrons and the atoms and the molecules, you would not exist. Your DNA cannot exist. It's all atomic structure that makes up molecular structure. And that's how important the God particle field is. That's the basis of it. It was created right in the first trillionth of a trillionth of the opening second of the Big Bang. And we know that because it has to go out first, because then particles started to form, all the other atomic particles, after a couple 100,000 years after the Big Bang, cooled and allowed everything to cool enough so that the subatomic particle energy could exist. Well, it can't exist, again, without the God particle field. So the God particle field went out first. That's why it's called the God particle. It's the first thing that's created in the Big Bang, and then it spreads all throughout the universe, is still spreading throughout the universe in a huge, very uniform pattern. It's the same everywhere. It has to be, because the universe is the same everywhere, that as far as we can see. And so that's the importance of the God particle field. That is the force, again, that George Lucas was talking about. He just got it a little bit wrong in Obi-Wan's initial explanation. He might straighten it out, actually, in this new movie that's coming up, The Force Awakens. I bet he does, because he's had the benefit of reading books like mine. And since he did his first movie back in the 70s, of course, they didn't know anything about the God particle. They weren't sure it existed. Now they do a couple years later. So he'll probably straighten us out in the new movie about how the force is actually not created by all living things, but can be used by all living things. And that's what we talk about in the book, The God Particle Field, The Force Awakens. I hope you'll get a copy as soon as you can, and a bunch of promotional materials that we have coming as well, like t-shirts and so forth, and hats and other apparel, because when you wear them, you'll be able to talk about this. And it really is, when you think about it, the most interesting subject that I know of. Where we came from, what we're doing here, and where we're going. The God particle field determines your destiny as well as mine. Mine is going just really fine since I discovered this and how to use it. Anybody can do it. You just have to be sincere, have to have faith, and have to want to do it, and want to change your life, want to actually impact all of the future events in your life in positive ways, and you have to concentrate on that. But the good news is there's a new technology about how to do that in the God particle field. My new book, The Force Awakens. And before you read that, though, you should read the original book, The God Particle Bible, that came out almost immediately after they announced the discovery of the God particle field. Thanks so much for watching.